G'day everybody, and welcome back for some more Scrapyard building, this time featuring trains. Lots and lots of trains. All of the trains. Because, well, I think it's about time I added these to the Scrapyard mod, and I think it'll be a nice extra group. Because what we've got so far are all these vehicles that kind of can spawn on their own. Then we've got the hangars, then we've got the sheds, which can spawn with various other buildings. And I think with highway and industrial and a few other things, having the trains will be quite nice. It'll be a nice extra find that can be out there and a nice bit of variation beyond what we already had. One thing that I am thinking about is how to potentially go about making some of the stations, whether it needs to be a couple of different spawn types. So what I'm thinking there is, like, this thing, should it spawn near a couple of houses, and this thing maybe near a couple of other little buildings or the bar. Then these more industrial ones, should they spawn with some industrial buildings nearby? And I kind of think they should. I think maybe having a couple of different ones would add some nice variation without having to add too much more to the mod. But I guess we can kind of talk that through and think it through as I'm trying to come up with different blocks here. Duke of Frag submitted all of these train builds, by the way, and they're very, very nicely done. The main challenge I have with them is figuring out how I want them to spawn so that they'll sit nicely on the surface, because things like this are 100% small grid, and the rail looks kind of okay on the ground when the ground is very flat. But if the ground is a little bit off, it ends up poking out into the air. Like, if I copy this now, and I pop it over here, which would be a perfectly valid spawn location, we have this. Which, if you came upon this, would probably not feel so great. So what I think I'm going to need to do is make any of the rail pieces, they're going to have some sort of large grid thing that looks a bit like ballasted track, so that we can have them spawn anywhere but still sit on a flat surface and just have it look like the ballast and the rails have been washed away by a flood or blown up or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Sort of like these bits here. Or these bits here, where it does look like it's a bit of ballasted track. I thought there was a better example of that. No, it's just the station ones. But yeah, so I think what I might first work on is something that would work, is see if I can figure out something that looks best as ballast. No, Kaneda, dealing with rotors and small grid embedded in voxel was something that I realized very, very early on, not as early on as I would have liked, but early on enough, was bad. Like with these sheds, when I had the rotors on them, that was bad. That was just a mess. That was not a good way of doing things. It led to lots of explosions, led to lots of awkward stuff. So, yeah, wasn't great. Buddy, how do I choose where to stream? It is largely dependent on timing, randomness, and expected number of viewers. And it's flipped from what it used to be. My Flipsy channel's always been just the place to put stuff where I couldn't figure out where else to put it. And for a long time, Twitch was my, I'm not worried about this, I'm just gonna throw stuff up there. But then I came to understand how advertisers chose people to have as sponsors, and it's based on average concurrent viewers, so I have to play the game, and not stream stuff where I'm expecting a more chill and quiet grouping. But the other thing is, anything I think where I'm going to be chatting a lot with chat and don't want to have to read out the comments, I prefer to do on YouTube because then I know that the chat is with the VOD permanently. So yeah. That's roughly how I do it. As to block mods, that's a fairly hard no for Scrapyard. I don't want to use rail mods. I don't want to use any of these things because that's another dependency that I just would like to avoid. I'd like to keep these builds as vanilla as possible. So yeah. And yes, LG, I have already played Palworld twice on stream because Capac's really enjoying it. But I'm also enjoying Enshrouded, so I can't decide which one I want to play most of the time, so I usually just let TFA and Capac decide. So, let's have a look at these rail pieces. There's a rail piece on its own somewhere. Isn't there? Oh, I could just use this one. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that there was a plate underneath each of these bits as well. How does this compare? Okay, so the rail width is 2.5, so you need to have at least 2 blocks wide. Alright. Yeah, the old sheds were a bit of a shocker. It was the best idea I had at the time, but I'm so glad I've learnt about the whole thing where I can use landing gear and still have them as part of the prefab. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I kind of want to make some sections that are a single track. Although I worry that this isn't going to look as good as that. I just want to get rid of the armor, the block edges. Oh, that's... I think concrete's the best option here. I also feel like it has to be the grey concrete too. It can't be brown or anything. The round blocks I think will look weird, but I'll give them a go. I'll have to try. I'm open to trying a few things, but yeah, I suspect round's just going to look odd. It's too curved. And we're left with the block edges as well, which is annoying. I mean, I did do that thing a little while ago where where is it? I did this to get rid of block edges. In fact, I haven't checked. And I know it sometimes seems like the damage persists, but sometimes it feels like the damage that I do to these things isn't persisting. Let's see if how the track looks sitting on top of that. I mean, as long as that's not too high out of the ground, that actually doesn't look too bad. I think either or. Though with the denting, I think it's kind of nice. what I want to do, as well as creating ones with rail cars on them, I do want to have at least a couple of pieces of rail where there's no rail car on it at all. Still think the round looks too round. Even with the dents in it. But then this is too square. They're all I can't. Urgh. There are rail blocks that are they're technically secret rail blocks in the game. I don't think they're actually modeled properly though, so they're not something I would want to use. At all for this. No. What other options do we have? Oh, hold up. Let's try this. How does this look as the middle bit? And then the rounds on the side. Is that still going to give me armor edges without shooting it? I think it is. I think these always have an edge on them. Yeah. What? I was hoping this might be a way to get around the rounding issue. Yeah. Better the other way. Better the other way. Armor panels don't deform, Kaneda. So there's limited stuff you can do with them. They don't have block edges, which is handy, but because they don't deform... Although, I guess if the rounded pieces don't have edges, then maybe that would be useful. If I'm happy to stick with the perfect rounded shape. Was that, then... that in the middle. Does get me the no edges without having a... without having to shoot it. Similarly though, I could go with the flat panel in the middle, I guess. At least then the texture sizes match up neatly. The downside, of course, of this is that I don't get the extra extra little details, because these will be a perfectly repeating pattern of block. But this could work alright. More repetitive than the other shape. Yeah, it'll look weird when you grind them and they're hollow. But this is all a bit, it's all a bit Hollywood in the way that I've done a lot of these things anyway. Because it'll also feel weird when you get to the trains and realize that the wheels are not wheels and suspensions, they are just wheel blocks. So I wonder whether there's a different texture that could work well here. I think it does have to... I think it has to be concrete, though. So I think Dusty just looks like... or look too metallic. Yeah, I think it does have to be concrete, doesn't it? That's the best option we've got. I just find that if it's in the perfect grey like it is there, it just looks a bit too clean. So that's why most of the concrete stuff that I've been building has been slightly reddish like this. I might move it more into the yellow. Let's see if that feels a bit better for this purpose. Yeah, maybe that's a little less clean. The thing is, most ballast that I've seen is very it's very dark grey. That's probably just where I am in the world. Like, how does that feel? Can you do a slight gradient? No. No gradient. Gradient is basically impossible. Oh, do you mean a slight gradient in terms of color? Not grade as in terms of slope, sorry. I thought you were meaning slope. Slope is impossible. Gradient of color? You could do... It can create some weirdness because of the size of the color shift that you're working at. I think in situations like... say where I've got it cut out in different shapes like this, which is probably the way I'm leaning toward doing it, because with the round, how do I end it? There are more options if we stick to squarer shapes. With this sort of shape, you can then try and pick different colors. So like I could change that one up to be lighter, make a different bit darker, and it tends to work a bit better together with the changing color, because the color change aligns with a shape change. But a gradient of color doesn't quite work in Space Engineers, annoyingly. Except where you've got a block edge that already exists. Because you end up having to go so subtle with it that it ends up being basically pointless if you do it. If you want to try and have it there, I think. You can do, like, I think you could pull off a gradient in small grid, but in large grid I feel like it's... it's a difficult thing to do in a way that I feel works. Like, it has to be this subtle, I think. And at that point it's like, well, do I really need to bother? Am I adding much to this by doing this, or should I not do this anymore? But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with this shape so that I can have bits of it missing and bits of it cut out. Even though this works, just as I realize that I have no way to end this. Like, how do I create an end piece for this that doesn't look weird? Because it'd be like trying to put curve bit on the end here, and then these. Like, do I do that? I feel like that looks way too uniform. It doesn't look... it's just... yeah, it's looking like a submarine. Drakadar, you're doing this example with plate rather than the full blocks because I don't want the block edges. yeah. The other thing I was contemplating was not building ground level track at all, and instead just having all of the track pieces be elevated. So if we go grab the highway section. I mean, I'll probably end up doing both, to be honest. Some raised, some not. So since it's this rail, we'll get rid of the car-specific parts. Nope. And then it'd be... Okay, so putting these on. Like so, and then having a few different selections with different rail cars on it. This is obviously the easy option, because it does give me a perfectly flat surface that's always raised that makes a lot of sense. But I think if I'm going to do this, I should probably come up with some bridges that are uniquely rail rather than just using the highway one, but it was just a quick way of mocking something up. Yeah, alright. I'm gonna abandon the round blocks, even though I do like the look of parts of them. They don't transition to other blocks nicely, so I think I'll stick with the more chunky, blocky texture of this. Let's see if we can come up. See if I can come up with a bit of a ballast. Bit of a worn, missing part sort of ballast look. Yeah, I know, Alexander, I know there are ships on the workshop that look good with gradients, but you have to design around that concept, and as I said, I think you need specific block edges for it to work. Because having just a full-on gradient, especially when you don't play with a no armor edges mod, I feel like that leaves you with a bunch of extra block edges that look real weird in most circumstances. MFU, small grid embedded in voxels is just bad. I've been there, done that, and it didn't do well. It was, it was really awful. Created a number of different and unpleasant problems. Like, I think doing something like this where it looks like stuff's kind of worn away in different spots and we've got different problems with it should work okay. I'm just kind of putting random bits together, and if some bits of it look weird, that's kind of what it is. Altan, yes, I am still doing Underground Alone. Underground Alone was intended to be a sort of pick it up and drop it and pick it up and drop it series. And I actually did some work before this stream on adding some stuff to it for tomorrow, because I'm going to stream it tomorrow. And I know why I had to keep respawning at the start of each thing. It's because of a server setting that I hadn't fixed. That I should have fixed, but didn't. Which I have since fixed. I have long ago stopped using the self-deleting rotors, thankfully. I was informed of some better techniques. Aragath is actually responsible for informing me of the better techniques. He dropped in on one of the streams and was like, you know, you can take a blueprint with all of the stuff attached even by landing gear. To which my response was, no, I didn't realize that. And that is really useful, because now I can make blueprints with landing gear. That means I don't need to delete anything except for the landing gear. Sometimes don't even need to delete the landing gear. I think something like that'll work okay. Yes, self-deleting rotors. My original thing to get small grids into the scrapyard via large grid fixed structures was to use a rotor, which was either deleted or just left there and embedded in the voxel. Created all sorts of clanging. Was really awful. Was a terrible idea. Well, it wasn't necessarily a terrible idea, but it didn't work well. Alright. We got a basic shape. I might try and make at least a couple of different ones. Let's do something with a bit more of a gap in the middle. This part feels a little different. And then, yeah, then I evolved past that to using a system which is still in use, but which is a bit weird. Which is this double connected deletion. So I've got this little thing inside that all gets deleted and then just drops the engine. But because the connectors will connect through a panel, I could delete the connectors on both sides. So that was the next evolution, which got rid of all of the clanging rotors. But then the more recent ones, I just take blueprints with stuff stuck to it by landing gear. Lenjet, I have no idea what a luffing crane is. I will need to, you'll need to educate. That. What have are these more spam calls, or are these something I should actually pay for? Nope, all spam. Go away. Those two look somewhat different. I don't like this slope being so predictable at the back end here. Let me change some of that up. Crane that has a boom arm that goes up and down rather than being fixed on a horizontal position all the time. Nope, still don't understand, Lenjet. Yeah, I think those two look different enough, and then I might create a third shorter piece. So these could each hold 2 rail cars, and then I'll make a third shorter piece. The main thing with the submissions to Scrapyard that I look at first, and which is usually the criterion that ends up with me not picking a build, is scale. If the scale works for the scale that I've been building most of the Scrapyard stuff in, then there's a reasonable chance that I'll add it or at least modify it to make it work with what I'm after. But if the scale is off from what I've been building, then I'll typically just not. So if you're making submissions, try your best to get the scale consistent with what I've been doing. Because I feel like consistent scale in these things is super important. Because as soon as you start seeing a few builds where the scale is just a bit out of whack, it's like, where? This is weird. Okay. Why not rusty blocks? Because this is meant to be rocky ballast. So these will be sections where I'll make up rail that sits on top of it, and then we can pick various rail cars to put on them in various states of disrepair, and I can just reuse these pieces for a few basic spawn groups, and then go from there. Now I'm making terrain pieces. Yes, Eisen, these are sort of terrain pieces. Not really, though. Kinda. Not really. The main fun thing for TFE with getting these into the mod is going to be making sure that they are all embedded at the correct depth. Because these need to be pretty deep in. I'm going to do some... Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. That'd be bad. I'm going to do some color difference, but I've got to pick which blocks so I don't get edges. Done with the extra edges. Yeah, the full, but like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to add an extra mod to the dependency list. I've got enough, I think. Like, I've got your textured build states mod, I've got all of the various different components of the scrapyard as well. It just gets to be a bit much to me. I don't want to add too many things that add dependencies. I think it all just... it very quickly gets out of hand. Which I realized when I was making my personal dependencies mod. It's basically just an empty mod with dependencies of all my current regularly used mods. I suppose I could make this an extra layer thicker to make sure that it can. I probably should. It'll be annoying to have to fix them all later. Alright, I'm going to make this an extra block thicker. Because if it's not, and I need it to be later, it'll be a problem. I had someone asking not too long ago about why I don't use mods that get rid of armor edges. I don't have a hugely good reason, but the main reason I've never really used them is because I publish stuff on the workshop, I want it, when it goes to the workshop, to look right no matter who's using it. And it would bug me. No, I can't use that block. Gotta use the other bits. It would bug me if the blocks were not the right... like, didn't look right because they were missing that mod. So I tend to not. No, that still leaves the edge. Oh well. One edge isn't too bad. Yeah, I'll just try and add a few extra blocks below so that we've at least got something. But when it sticks, so it doesn't have as much a chance to stick out of the ground. Too badly. It's always annoying having to do an extra layer when I thought I was done. The armor edges thing is something that I probably would have used a lot. Like, I probably would have played with if I wasn't worried about publishing my blueprints, but I don't know. I for so long I've stuck with fairly vanilla. Like, my builds are usually pretty much vanilla. 100% vanilla when it comes to the actual blocks that are in them. Like, I'm trying to think of any that I've had block mods in recently, and I just don't really play with block mods much. Hey DJ. I'm actually trying to think of the exceptions to that rule. So I'm sure there are some, I'm just struggling to come up with them. Yeah, keeping vanilla definitely makes things more accessible. Which always felt important to me as the tutorial guy. Speaking of, I should have a version I'm happy with for this weekend. Finally. I'll do this. I'm just chucking stuff down. I don't want to have to do the other two of these now. I'm thinking maybe whether I should just have 2 variations or 1. Just use the 1 type of ballast. Can't help myself though. I don't like having too much of the same thing in this. I reckon that'll more than do. Shower lights is a block mod, but it's a block mod that immediately replaces the block that is there. And therefore, if you don't have that mod, it doesn't matter. You're welcome, Keeper. Glad I finally remembered to actually publish one of my recent builds. Okay, so we got 1 bit of ballast. Which, ideally for me, would be about this deep in the ground when it spawns in. So the extra blocks are there just in case the terrain's a bit more hilly than is around here. But most of it'll be buried, so that'd be my ideal. I've never really needed a, I did use the interaction, like the thing that adds the control panel to lights ages ago, but ever since Build Vision got updated, I haven't felt like I needed that mod. I used it pre-Build Vision being capable of interacting with lights more easily and more consistently. There was a period there where Build Vision was really hard to use to interact with lights. I used it for that. That was survival maybe era, I think. Oh, the stupid cicadas causing annoying sounds in my microphone during recordings. And the fact that it was only there at the start of this week's AA. Ugh. I'm just going to do this and see how horrible this looks if I just use standard slopes for this. Just to see if I can get this down a bit more quickly. This bit does have to be different. The cicadas are not too loud right now. But I think they were loud at the start of the last of 2 weeks ago's AA recording. It was a super hot day. Like, I think when we started the recording, it was still 34 or 35 degrees in my shed. And we start the recording at 8 PM at night. So that was a fun night for trying to sleep. go that. I know this adds a lot of block edges, but I'm hoping it won't really matter. The next survival series is going to be the thing that I'm doing all this for. Because the next thing is going to be an edited series on a supporter server. That's why I want to add more builds to the Scrapyard, so that there's more stuff for us all to find. Cicadas are the very loud ones. That's about the most important thing that's relevant about them. And I have had a few that have decided to take up residence just outside my shed window. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look horrible, and that was a lot quicker to put together. Might just put something in here though, for if those get exposed. Again, we'll bury this down, because that's about how deep I want it to be. Just those extra bits there in case. I don't have an issue with the sound of cicadas at all, except from a recording perspective. Because they get so loud and their sound covers so many frequencies, and that all of the noise cancelling stuff doesn't seem to manage them very well. Like, it can cut them out when there's nothing being said, but as soon as I start talking, it lets them through quite a lot. But, you know, whatever. Can't do anything about it. Put a lot of effort into trying to make my audio as clear as possible, but sometimes you just have to call it a day and say, well, that's as good as I can do. Otherwise it all just gets way too stressful. Oops, not that. Don't want that. Might just go there. No, that. That's what I want. See you, Alexandra. It's kind of weird to me moving to a place that never with cicadas after never hearing them IRL and only in anime. They are so loud. One of the hospitals I used to work at during summer, because it was right on quite a decent sized bit of bushland, like right next to. It was so deafeningly loud when you go outside at sunset. It was crazy. Like, I didn't bother trying to call my other half as I left work, because I'm like, you can't hear me until I get into the car, so I'm just not going to do anything until I've gotten there. Because it was just ridiculously loud. Like, I think you could do hearing damage with how loud they get during the height of summer. Same deal with this. Nice and low, deep in the ground. And we have 3 variants. Cool. Alright, next bit is make some track that nicely fits to these bits. So what I might do is grab one of these pieces that has a longer but not damaged bit of track, which I think is going to be this one. And then I'll take the cars off it and start breaking it down to fit these pieces. I think this bit's nice and long and consistent. Then I can just rip out some of the sleepers and various other bits to make it fit to the way that I've damaged the ballast. Yeah, over 120 decibels. Yep, and then when there's hundreds of them around you, it's proper loud. Make sure this lines up nicely. So yeah, I'm thinking I just paste these on and then I'll remove the parts that make sense to be removed from it, based on where the ballast sits. And then I can copy paste these sections and add various rail cars to them. And then at least we'll have the rail cars, and then I can look at what to do with the stations and bridges and stuff like that. Can't wait to make a road train with the trains. You will have to build your own wheels though, because they are fake wheels, not functional. Do wonder if you could do it with the short suspensions. I might have to look at that and see whether short suspensions work, but I think it's the wrong width. I think even for short suspensions. But I'm also hesitant to put the short suspensions on, largely for the extra number of subgrids. I think letting you guys refit your own wheels and suspensions onto these things is fine. Are there any short suspensions in yet? No, but you can build your own wheels, so you don't need them. I don't need to add in any, I don't think. Let's get rid of this sleeper. And then... You right there, Charlie? I'm thinking if I snap the rail here, and then snap this one, yeah. Get rid of that. And then lose a bit of this sleeper. Grab that, and... Oh. That way. Then I'll just get rid of this sleeper entirely. Oh wait, that's floating on this side too. Nope, this one's got to go entirely too. These bits as well, just to try and do this neatly. Got to try and do it properly the first time so I don't have to redo them later. I've left the connection plates there so I can use them. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. As I may need to use them. Because it'll be very difficult to place them myself. Because they require a plate going underneath. It's either I use the connection plates or I make up, or I have another landing geared thing on top of this. And I'm thinking using the connection plates might be the more performant option. Now, there's this one. And half of this one. It is a bit weird that it does float Jeez, Charlie. It is a bit weird that it floats slightly, but I think all things considered, it's as good as you would expect in Space Engineers. Yeah. I think that works alright. The little bits that float, the little bits that don't. Maybe I'll remove a bit of this one though. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Is that because the mag plate's auto-locked? Yes. Well, partly, but also the mag plates create a little bit of spacing themselves because they're thicker than the plates. So even if they didn't auto-lock where they did, they'd still end up creating a bit of a float. I've not heard of railroad tie being called a sleeper before. Huh. I'm guessing it's a British thing that Australians continued. So yeah, most people would know them as sleepers here, especially since places like Bunnings sell timber of similar sizes to this as a sleeper for using as a garden edge. It does amuse me just how many people outside Australia know what Bunnings is. Given how much Australians talk about it. That has got to be some of the most impressive brand recognition. Actually, it's pretty easy to add in. I just attach the edge of the sleeper. Yeah. These are awkward to get at. There's that. Oops. I might have to create a little bit of a break in the rail on at least one of these pieces. Or maybe just on one of these pieces. Maybe this one. Get rid of that. Always looks weird when the piece that remains that you can find out in the world is all intact. And then it suddenly just ends. Like, something doesn't sit right here. Oh, it took me a moment to realize what you guys were talking about with the onions on the bottom. Yeah, you don't put the onions on the bottom. Too slippery for the sausage. Also too wet for the bread. And as you'd think, it's been a while since I've been online on YouTube, but it was actually just last week I did one. But it had been a while before that one. I believe Sleeper comes from Norway. I'm just gonna blame... because why not? Ringo Starr. Some people will know what I'm talking about. A Sleeper. And I reckon I'll get part of these two as well. Part of this one and then the entirety of this last one. Okay. Yeah, I think that works for that. The two pieces definitely look different. I think said they changed it because onions were falling off the top onto the ground and people were slipping over on them. What? Oh, man. Curse this litigious society we live in. What did I miss out on blaming Capac for? I'm sure I can find a new reason to. Do you know the thing that annoys me about so many of the Bunnings sausages that are available at the Bunnings that I go to? They often don't take card. They only take cash. Which is so annoying. I don't have cash. The only cash I've had in the last year was a... something quite fortunate that happened to me the other day, actually. Thanks, Rusty. Thank you so much for the £10. Well, part of my family did just abandon me because she left me with a gas bomb and then she has walked outside. That being my dog. But yeah, the only cash I've held in the last year or so was a $20 note that I found in the grass the other day. Well, so this isn't a shop. The Bunnings sausages are actually run by various groups trying to raise money for their group. Commonly sporting organizations, things like that. Like local kids sports teams and things like that. So they often will just be cash in. It's like, I'm pretty sure most of the banks can give you free you can get the ability to take card for these things now quite easily, but few of them do. It's annoying because it means I never get to have a sausage. So money doesn't grow on trees, it grows on the grass. This is why dads are mowing the lawn at 6 AM. I'm not sure I could do a convincing bend to the rail without adding an extra grid. And I'm not sure I want to add an extra grid just for that. Just realized I'd missed a couple of bits. Oh yeah, like I'm sure Visa and MasterCard still take their cut, but what I mean is the terminal itself, I think a lot of the banks actually provide some of that stuff. If not free, much more cheaply for charitable organisations, from what I've seen. I'd have to look into it properly though. Which I'm sure I will have to do at one stage in my life, once Toby's that old enough for me to have to think about those things. Yeah. Alright, I'm happy with those 3 bits of rail. Yeah, the blast doors don't really have enough variance to their shape. Like, the only thing I think you'd be able to do would be to kink it up, and it'd have a weird jagged edge to it. Like, because the bits we have would be like trying to use this, and then a corner piece. We don't have diagonals. Step's only 6 and I still can't do the English well good around him. Yeah. I've started, because Toby's very clearly paying attention to what I'm saying lately, I have started, applying my streaming mentality to when I'm around him. So that the language that comes out of my mouth is stuff that I'm happy for him to say later. Alright, so we got the 3 of those. I might make some single rail bridges. I think I'm going to avoid the double rails, and I'll just go with singles for the most part, as it will help me keep things scaled down to a much smaller size. I am then going to adapt and modify these stations and these bits as well, but I just want to do the more generic stuff first. I will repeat every word you ever wished you never said. Yes. Yeah, the blast door blocks don't deform, so they don't work well for that either. So, rail bridge. Scaffold blocks. I wonder if they'll make a believable trellis. Collapsed tunnel entrance won't work because you can't specify the spawn location accurately enough for it to be something that would look anything but awful. Unfortunately. Doing anything that involves specific voxel shapes nearby is just a no. Not sure these are the right thing for this. I think we need to go... The beam blocks are so chunky. Oh, what's in these? That's a fair point. What is in these? Small steel tubes and girders. Huh. Be funny if there was a very, very rare spawn that was the Stargate-like structures. Curse the Ashen! They've ruined another world! Only this one didn't remain an agrarian place after they were done with it. I presume that's what you were going for, the Hawk. Yeah, there are two sci-fi fandoms that you can usually rely on me to get the references to. Stargate and Farscape. Oh, and depending on whether you want to consider Futurama to be part of that as well. That doesn't look horrible. I feel like if it goes this way, then I can build something like this. And that would be a quite suitable support structure. Though it does feel like it's going to be a bit wider than I necessarily want it. So maybe if I do that, then we can add... No. Be this one? Something like this. I feel like in Space Engineers this is about as scaffoldy as we're going to get. Like trellis, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say. Just keep using the wrong thing. Oh, I have the right rotation. So if I go that long, and then I copy from here, we can have a look at what this will look like in more than one section. The half beam block could probably go inside here, but I don't think it adds all that much to do that, but could do. It doesn't really have the right shape, unfortunately, for being a support when I'm using the half blocks on the outside. It's a dense pocket of steel plate, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's all a bit bland. I feel like this is a little too bland. I mean, it is a rail bridge. It's not going to be the most exciting of structures. It needs graffiti. Because the highway bridge design was this style of thing that Lenjet was posting in the Discord. Was this style of thing. That was roughly the image I was going for. But I'd like to do something different for the rail bridge. Most bridges are pretty bland. Yeah. But I grew up in I grew up in Sydney. So I'm used to bridges being a little more interesting. Yeah, wooden trestle bridge is an interesting idea. I was trying to use some of that, like that, as some inspiration, but I'm just not sure we've got the necessary blocks. I guess that'll look more interesting as I try and break the edges of it so that it's not just square where it's broken down, and try and build the collapsed parts on either end. Could end up looking a bit more interesting. No, the new scaffold blocks just don't have enough beams. Because they've only got the single diagonal and it's going the same way on both sides. And they're just not quite thick enough either. Catwalk middle. Have a look at how that might look. I mean, that does let more light through because we got rid of the bit in the middle. And then what I could do is go... I mean, I could put more catwalk down here. Or I could go steel plate there. That certainly adds more interest on top. Yeah, the L-train sort of concept might work here, but might not. I just got to see... Where's the... There it is. Because it'd have to be this for the bit on top. Because I'm using the half bits. What do you guys reckon? With the panels or without? I feel like maybe without, because with the panels sort of hides the rail, and the rail's kind of one of the nice details. Although the bridge does look more like what I'd expect the bridge to look like now. I think I'll go without. I think I like seeing the rail. Like I could put them just over the pillar bits. Like that. I can't put them down a layer here because this is a half block. Nothing can be attached here. And we also don't have many other middle pieces in armor paneling. They're all edge bits. So there's not a lot I can do there either. Yeah, like I can do stuff like this to make it look broken. That's about it. What about the half catwalk? The half catwalk is they're all edge mounted. So there's no way to get it to like you could use the I could use a railing piece. Because there's a middle one of those, isn't there? Yeah. Like I can put these in. Hey, Stefan. Like the railings could work. Add some extra detail. They do add some extra detail without taking up too much of it. And I guess then it kind of works with these panels over the pillars. Maybe. Yeah. I've seen lots of tends to be more in passenger focused rails tend to have the siding on them, especially if they're near to residential areas. And I think part of the reason for that is actually noise dampening. These panels low down can actually provide a substantial amount of noise reduction from a train running across the rails. But the other reason is obviously safety in the event of passengers having to get out of the train. If we do this, I think this looks interesting and all right. I think this is a start. I'm just trying to think of any other bits. Like, the other thing is, do I grind this down to build state? Or does it then look too flimsy? No, I should rip out this center bit. And this one. I think I do prefer it with the catwalk. Then I come down here and I put... I'll go steel plate on this bit. Maybe? Oh, it'll look really repetitive. I'd have to get in there and like grind this to build state. Maybe that works. No, I don't want the catwalks hanging off the side. I specifically, like, part of my goal with this, I like the idea of this being a really narrow bridge. I didn't want to make it extra wide. And that's kind of why I've stuck with a single track rather than multi-track. Because I felt like single track was going to be It's just going to be a bit nicer. So what I'm building right now is the fully built version. Then what I'll do is make up a few variants that have various bits of it broken, as well as more than one pillar. And then have, you know, panels hanging off and bits dangling down so it all looks wrecked. My usual goal is start with something that looks fairly complete and then break it, because I find that if I start from complete and break it down, I tend to end up with a better result with the way that I build. I'll be back in just a sec. I need to take a quick bio break, and then I'll get on to wrecking this bridge. And I'm back. Okay, so let's get rid of this bit that I built over here. Ooh, smash. Forgot that I had... Forgot that I had to delete that bit at the same time too. Okay. Is there anything else I can tweak on this before I start working on it the proper thing? I might swap this out for that. Ooh, that doesn't work. That way? Yeah. Just so there is a way to walk through here. And then I'm just thinking about whether I might actually add ladders up the pillar. Nah, you figure out how to get up here. Not gonna make it too easy. Yeah, I prefer just the handrails up here rather than putting this one. Rather than doing this on here, which to me just felt like it was getting a little messy. I prefer just having the handrail. It also provides a perfectly flat surface to mount the rails on, which is going to make it more reliable. Whereas if I put the catwalk down, there's a little bit of a raise on the sides and the sleepers are going to contact those, which isn't ideal. Kanator, I'm not sure where you're meaning for using the build state of neon tubes. Oh, wait, I know what you're meaning. But I'm not sure for where. Because I've built in half blocks, so I've made this really hard to use. Because yeah, these work so well on so many things, but I just don't know where here. I don't think there is anywhere I could use them. Their build state. Add some extra detail. I guess I'll just leave it up to the train to be the detail. Alright, so... grab that, then I'll grab it again from here. Now the other thing is, this probably isn't tall enough, is it? Probably need to make this taller. So I'm just thinking these could be longer sections of rail, like these don't have to be as short as the other bits. So they could be raised a fair way up, which will allow them to, well, they can be set to a higher level. In fact, I think, do I want to go even higher than that? Make these really interesting as a challenge to get up to? Yeah, I could. I guess that looks more interesting. Yeah. Proving difficult to get rid of that one. Oh wait, this was the walkable one. That way. That way. I'm not sure how I'd get something like this to work like the cranes with the collapse and stuff. I'm trying to think of a way. Nothing's coming to mind. Despite the temptation. I think this will be enough. I think we'll just leave it at this. Any more than this and I've made this thing probably so big that people will just ignore it. But the idea is when we set the height for this to spawn, we can make it... Typically the terrain spawn at about this height, so sometimes it'll be deeper, sometimes it won't. I don't think if you come across a bridge that's about that high. Be an interesting challenge for a lot of cranes to reach. Like I'm imagining most of the time when this spawns in, it'll be about... yeah. But I just wanted it to be able to, if we're going to make it long, it needs to be able to tolerate a lot of terrain height variance. Okay, I'm going to grab this from a different spot. Alright. You're being annoying. And I just realized I haven't done this right, because I should put these bits in. Before I copy and paste it. No, that's not that bit I wanted. I wanted that bit. It's proving very useful to have the block picker. Very useful. Especially when dealing with plate. Nope, that didn't get the right bit. No. Less useful when you've got multiple bits that are see-through. There we go. Now that'll join on nicely to each bit, and then I can just chop it to length. The bit that I want to copy from is going to be this bit. Let's see if I can get these to snap nicely to each other. Yay! See, I was thinking of putting 3 of these together. Or something you can find. There's the longest section, and then make a shorter one as well. That's just a 2-length piece. Because that's going to tolerate quite some terrain height variation. If each bit's set, you know, 2 to 3 blocks in the ground under ideal circumstances, and then I can have them work differently from there. Alright, that's that bit cleaned up a bit. Yeah, this does mean I can put a longer train on this, which will be nice. Because the ground pieces are all going to be pretty simple. I'm going to keep them fairly light on with how much of a rail car they actually get. Yeah, hopefully these will be able to tolerate a little bit more. I'll leave that as the 3. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that. Copy that. And then we'll cut this one down to 2. Of that. Yeah. Yeah. No, do not want to respawn. I want to rotate the block. That. I don't like spawning in things that fall too often. The reason being, bits that fall are then loose and performance, because they often take damage. I would love to do more of that. I would love to do that all over the place. There are so many situations where I think it could be fun to have that sort of setup, but I have to restrain myself, because it's just, if I let myself have it all the time, it'd just be bad. No, it doesn't need a ladder. You bring your own ladder. That's the fun of this. You got to figure out how you're going to get it down. That's for the player to work out for themselves. I'm here to create problems. It's for the player to fix them. Alright, so... I think for these, I might allow myself the freedom to have 2 bridges of each size. Probably don't need to. You probably won't notice the difference, but I think 2 of each size. Any more than that and I'm going way overboard. But just because I want to tear out some different parts in these. Yeah, TFE, if you make them temporarily invulnerable, you do avoid the damage part of things, but you don't avoid the... It's still a loose grid on the ground. So it still is better if I do limit myself to how often I do that. I'm going to try and see how this looks. Wait, which I want? I want a plate sitting. Don't know which plate I want. I want that one. That's the one I wanted. Then I'm going to get a regular plate. Half one. Pop it there. So then I can put another. Like that. I think given the conditions we're working with, that's actually not too bad. I think that looks alright. And then I can put... Where is it? I know it's here. Where are you? Show yourself. This. Yeah. Yeah, that works. That works nicely. Yeah. So I was thinking of having like a couple of bits of this chopped out of various bits of the bridges. Where else might I break this? And how else might I damage this section? I think I might take out this down to build state. It's a pity that the beams don't exactly have much going on with their build state versions. Yeah, take out some of the middle bits on the railings. Good call. Adds a lot of visual difference without doing all that much work. There's also going to potentially have some that look like they've fallen off. One of the things I've liked to do with the railings, although I don't know whether... Oh yeah, we'll have the right shape. That one. Have that hanging off. I really do enjoy building these sections where I try and use plates to imitate other blocks that have been bent. But man, it's a time consuming. It's fun. It's like, I find it properly fun. But it's so time consuming to get it to look right. Yeah. When will this go live? TFE, did you publish the other stuff that we added to the live version yet? Or is it still waiting? Assuming TFE is still in chat. He did chat recently, so I think he might be. Find those bits out. Oh, is that too... I think that's too copycatty. I need to get rid of this bit. Looks too much the same as the other end. Not in the live version yet, since you were planning on adding more stuff. Yep, that's cool. I was just checking. I wasn't sure whether you'd published in the live version. The stuff that I did last week during the stream is what I'm talking about there. It shouldn't be too long before this stuff gets into the live version. I'm hoping to start doing some stuff with the server I planned for this within the next couple of weeks, so I would want it in there by then, basically. And TFE and I talked yesterday, we're going to try and push to do a big update to assertive acquisitions for next week, which will include the new ships that you've possibly been seeing in AA. Because there have been a bunch of new space cargo ships that we added who have been testing. TFE's fixed the despawn behavior, so when you chase a cargo ship, it should hang around until you're done with it. Not just when it's like, nah, I'm not going to hang around anymore, I'm going to just disappear now. It should no longer do that. Which is great. That was one of the most irritating things ever. Alright, I think, other than doing some stuff to the pylons, I think I'm happy with the upper surface of this. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with that one. What can I do to these pylons without it starting to look super jank? I can probably grind out some of these to build state so that I don't have the angled bits, because that'll add some variation. I can't really get rid of too much of it because they are supposed to be, whoops, providing support still, because the bridge is still standing. Absolutely not, Fulgen. 100% not going to happen, but I know you were joking. We will not get an assert Skywarp. So it's always meant to be performance friendly, which is why the grids are all on the smaller side of things. Cool. I think I'm happy with that bridge. I'll stop messing with it. Let's mess with the next one. The next one, I think... Is there a way I can have it broken, completely broken in the middle, not partially broken like that, but completely broken in the middle, yet still have them connected to each other without using just a line of blocks underground? Wonder if there's a way I can make it look connected. Not sure there is. I just thought it might Kind of could look cool having two separate bridge pieces. Actually, I'm just going to try something. I'm going to try leaving the handrails intact. Let's see how janky that looks. It's probably going to look pretty jank. Honestly don't know what the Skywarp's PCU count is. I think it's something like 80,000. I think. Might be more than that. I have some vague memory of it being that at some stage. That's not going to work. I don't like it. Oh yeah, of course, Iron Moon. Have batteries and delete them. Of course. Duh. Thank you. That is the obvious solution here. I'm not going to do the batteries yet, though, because I want to see how it looks without them. What I might do is put the batteries down below. Yeah, the nice part about doing this is that you'll have pillars that are disconnected, but look like they definitely were connected at some point. There's a part of me that did at one stage think of doing something similar to this for the highway sections and having them separated by a much larger gap. I think I'll go for that bit, actually. Feels a little odd. Hey, Maverick. Right. So. Just got to think about which parts are still going to be hanging there. With that, and this one I'll make more steep with the 45, and then there'd be one more length. So if I go with an edge bit on this one, wait, no, I want to do my 45 piece here, another one. And I might do where is it? That. With its matching piece. Then I need to find the slope that goes on here. Which is not that one. Could be this one. Yeah, that one. So I can also go there. And I can have a middle bit dangling off here. And we grind out the middle. And that's the correct enough number of blocks. Hard to do a hanging rail. as in the handrail, hanging handrail. Because there's no piece. The way I typically do the handrails when I want them to look like they were there is do this and have them sort of floating out into the air like they've sort of been sheared and pulled in a weird way. Half catwalk, no railings, ground down to build state at the gap. Oh, to sort of give a half block here. I wonder whether that's going to look weird because it's the wrong orientation for that bit. Although, that could possibly work nicely as a different way of doing this bit. Then I'll do one of the diagonal pieces so it doesn't float out there looking so unsupported. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with this. I know it's not perfect, but, you know, we're working within some pretty specific limits with the approaches that I've got to use here. So I'm happy enough with the result. For this one, let's go... No, not that. I need that to be on this side, which I'm going to struggle with until I put the slopey bit on. No. That. And the tip there. That is a load of batteries if they don't despawn, but they do despawn. They do. I mean, it's pretty rare that they don't. The batteries are usually pretty good. The other thing to remember is, I haven't yet put the rails on here. But now that I'm looking at these, could I get away without putting the rails on here? And just put the railroad cars straight on these bridges to reduce the number of grids. I know it won't look quite as nice, but do the rails add enough to make them worth the many, many blocks that are used to make them up? For the bridges. For the ground pieces, I think they're 100% worth it, but up on the bridges, I'm not sure. I think we can skip the rails. Yeah, the catwalks almost look like they're built-in rails. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards skipping them to reduce the grid number. And block number. Right, let's grind a few of these bits down to build state. Paste one of the rail cars on, do you mean, Maverick? Or do you mean paste one of the rails? The rails will look lovely. The rails will look great. It's just whether their block count and the fact that you'll only see the top of these once you've got something that can fly is worth having them there. Oops. With that grinding. Alright, so let's grab a rail car and we'll shove it up there. Grab this. Let's just use a couple of these cars. Obviously, I want to center this a bit better next time, but hopefully this will give the idea clearly enough anyway. I think this sells it. I know it it feels a bit weird, like how did the train end up stuck up there? But and I mean, when you're standing up here, it really doesn't look too bad either. Especially if this one's actually centered. Yeah, that I was thinking of this. If we put that there, then put this on it, probably want to put it sideways or something. I don't think it'll let me. You drop that on there and you delete the mag plate, then that drops from a lower height, and then you have a one rail car that's scattered on the ground. Yeah, a lot of the scrap spawns have some weirdness to them. I know. There's limits to how much storytelling we can do. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this without rails. I think I'll make that decision. So, now, what I need to do, because I have... I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3... I have the 2 long bridges made. So let's make these 2 short ones, and then I'm good. Then then I've got 3 ground ballasted bits and 4 elevated track sections. I'm pretty happy with. Just gonna clean up a bit of this mess that I've left around the place. Alright. Breaking bridges, that's right. These ones need breaking. And then what I'll do is I'll have 4 different bridge sections that have 4 different types of trains on them. Unlike the highway sections, I won't be spawning in a random selection of vehicles. So I do want to have more bridge sections than I have of the highway sections. Because all of these are going to use manually specifically placed spawns so that I can get them exactly where we want them for the particular look. Because the highway ones, they're a bit more fun because then you can have vehicles smashing into each other and creating a little bit of carnage. But I think that level of carnage is probably a bit more than I want for the rail parts. Different enough to start off with. And we'll go down that one a bit further. A fallen bridge segment probably wouldn't look that good because it'd have floaty ends. If I was going to do a fallen segment, I'd have to do it like I did with the power pylons, the transmission towers, like this one. But even this one can still feel a little bit weird when it lands, because part of it'll be poking up. That's why I've not done much other than that one, because I was like, actually, this is a bit too weird, even for me, with the weirdness that I am accepting with this setup. Right. Don't want to put the same angle on both sides. I want them to look different. Oh. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And on the inside I can put the little tip against that. So I found that once I put the little tip in, and each of these parts looks so much more believable. And similarly that bit. There's a detail that was very much required to make these look right. Then we get next bit, which is this, and I'll shove it there. And this one I'm going to do a bit differently. And do that. Yeah, cool. And I want this little bit hanging out. Just that extra bit of something going to a different angle. A little more interest. Oops. How's that looking? Yeah, I reckon that's alright. The interesting parts of these are obviously going to be the rail cars, so as long as the bridge holds up to a brief bit of scrutiny, I think it'll be okay. Hopefully with the large number of grids I'm trying to add to the mod now, the increased variation that you run into means that it'll be less distracting, or there'll be less likelihood of being distracted by a build that's something you've run into 1,000 times before. It's obviously still going to happen. You're still going to see lots of repeats, but I still hope that it'll be rare enough that people can still find enough fun in it. Yes, indeed, the Fool. Oh, look, it's another flatliner. Yes, yes. I do... It's a pity that the flatliners are such a useful vehicle for putting stuff on. At some point, I should probably try and make another vehicle of about the same scale that looks different enough, because the color difference is not enough. But yeah, I wouldn't say no to someone submitting another truck of about this dimension. People have submitted some stuff that's similar, but the scale is completely different. Edric, I was literally just looking at a small grid large hydrogen thruster. There's one right here. Yeah, there was a flatbed trailer that was submitted that was scaled to about 2.5 times the scale of the flatliner. So it's not usable. But yeah, I could just make a trailer like a semi-trailer trailer thing and just rip off part of the flatliner. So there's another option. No Dragnon, no Hammets. But did you see that I added your why is my brain not remembering Combine Harvester lately? It's weird. That I added your Combine Harvester. So one of the things that's going to happen with me having more grids in the game is there's going to be an increased chance that you may not find what you're looking for, because there'll be more grids. That means less chance of finding a specific grid with a specific block. So there are ups and downsides to it. Yeah, I decided to go with a more modern style Dragnon to try and shrink it down a bit. Get some water, one thing. Yeah, Rush, if you work on trucks, they should definitely be small. Like, the flatliner has a single block between two standard 3x3 suspensions. That's the wheel width. That's the maximum width of a vehicle that I've been adding for ground vehicles. No, I don't think there are any vehicles here that are wider. Or maybe these ones are one block wider, but I think that's pretty much the maximum width. So it's a pretty small scale to work in, but it's the scale that I chose for everything here because I think it fits best. The server, no more test series. The server will be a proper series with it, assuming the server doesn't just die, which is entirely possible. It'll hopefully run okay, but we'll see. What is the length of the flatliner? So the width is the 3x3 wheels with a single block between. Lengthwise is what? 1, 5, 10, 15, 20. It's just shy of 30. I think it's probably about 28 blocks long. There, Space Force. Let's put a thing of this in there. Then I'm going to put the spiky end on this one, I think. I'll just leave that piece as is from there. Just grind down a few of these handrails so they're not all uniform. Yeah. Alright, I think I'm happy with those bridges. Yeah. Could do a shorter truck. I think vehicle-wise, it takes a lot of these vehicles for them to feel like you're constantly finding new ones. But it's also that most of the vehicles that I had submitted early were a bit more military, and I've been pushing pretty hard against making military vehicles. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the scale side of things is something that's been a bit harder for people to get to the scale that I was working at. But yeah, there are a few other vehicles that I was thinking of adding. Like I wanna wreck up this caravan that Shadow and I used in RVs at War. I may do something with this motorbike, because it kind of works. This power truck's a bit too many subgrids and a bit too perfect, so I wasn't really going to use it. What else was there? I thought there was something else I pasted in, but maybe it was one of the something else I've come across. Definitely not a broken absconder. No. No. I don't want stuff because an absconder's the totally wrong scale. Like completely wrong scale. You look at UFO's aircraft for scale as well, and they look like they fit right next to the trucks that I built. The scale on them is bang on. Also, I should replace this. While I'm thinking of it, I'm just going to do this. Control-Alt-C. I did this one wrong. I should have had the wings attached with batteries that get deleted. I'm just going to do that. And then re-export the grid. Just do this. It's so weird using undo and then constantly having my my dampeners set to relative. Because if all those get deleted, then that works perfectly. And we'll collapse in a much more believable position. Just gotta make sure they're all named to delete this block. Probably should have used larger batteries. That would have been smarter. Then I would have had fewer to delete. I don't think I have remembered to put easy block renaming on this world. And I'm still going to use the small ones because it allows me to place this more accurately. Actually, I should cut that. Yeah, there we go. That's going to look much better. Did I have easy block renaming? No, I don't have it. Yep. So I need to set up a creative mode mod list so that I've got undo and easy block renaming. I think I did put easy block renaming in my default mods thing that I made up the other day. Because TFE did finally make me use it in AA. And get used to it. Oh yeah, I haven't set up anything on the new bridge yet. No stress about that. Okay, let's get rid of this, because that's wrong. Let's copy you. Move you into position so I've got everything arranged where I want it. Yeah. That'll be good. Huh? Why didn't you export? Did that export? Oh no, it did. What have I called it? Rusty Biriev. Where is it? Lane 03. Delete those ones. Export it again. It's not giving me the notification on screen that it's exported, but it has exported now. And just so that I don't forget, I'm going to send this to TFE right now. There we go. Then, now that I've been distracted by that thoroughly, I can get back to my trains. So I'm trying to think which... I think the large grid block makes the most sense as the one that is the parent grid for these rail sections. So what I'm going to do is Control-Alt-C on that. We'll make 2 variants of this rail, and I'll make 2 variants of each rail. First, I need to add the remote and battery to it. Why not make your own block name delete? Because then I'd have to figure out how to make a block mod. And I don't wanna. It's pretty much just boils down to that. Apparently this is where my rail yard is going to be. That's fine. Info. Let's name this now to NPC-Scrapyard. Rail ballast 1A. Oops. Didn't actually press Control C and copy that. And we'll call this one 1B. No, Ralph, I'm not putting a twin stick shooter in here. And that was from Engineer Corps, not Survival Impossible. Survival Impossible was the Absconder. Okay. Before I start messing around with the other ones, I'm going to see if I can first off make some scrap of these engines, because they're a little too clean for my taste. We'll start with the diesel locomotive and see what I can do. Let's go first to paint. And find heavy rust. What? No, there we go. It might be too rusty. We'll see. The other thing I was looking at previously was actually removing these wheels and replacing them with the off-road ones, whatever they're called, because the build state of the off-road ones, I think, ended up looking a bit better. As railroad wheels, because they've got a bit more to the model. The model on the regular wheels goes so low detail so quickly when you go to build state. Like, that doesn't work. Whereas these kind of pass as being metallic wheels. So that's one of the things I wanted to change. And then add in, it's a piston rod, isn't it? That's what they're called, I think. What about the rounded armor? These are 5x5s. I think 4x4 wheel, like 2x2 wheels might be too small. Sorry, these are 3x3s. I think the 2x2s would be a bit small, and that's what you'd get with a rounded armor block. Yeah, I think this is gonna need to be rusted up a fair bit and worn down and stuff. Alright, let's cut that out. We'll replace the wheels on the other side. Alright, I gotta test this. I don't think it's gonna work, but I've gotta test it. Not sold. I don't think that works. Like, a block higher is correct. Like, they were too low. The thing is, though, if I put these as the wheels, it makes it easier for the player to convert this into something they can use, which is good. But it means we can't have the rod running between the wheels. And it adds 6 extra subgrids per rail car. Oh, so I'm torn. I mean, they're not going to be usable as is anyway. It's not going to be able to steer. I agreed, this is a diesel locomotive, so the rod isn't really needed. Alright, you know what? Short suspensions. How to wheel. Short suspension. Block wheel. There you go. You guys vote. Tell me what you think is better. I mean, I don't think the extra subgrids really matter at this point. I've got so many. If they end up being really terrible for performance, then I can always change it back, but it's a pretty even split. You guys? 56 to 44. You know what I want to do? Let's just copy this. I want to test something. Oops. As for the PCU of this save, I think the best answer is a lot. Huh? $55 to $45. I wonder whether what I'm about to do will change people's opinion. I think without the coupling rod it looks a bit empty. Yeah, perhaps. uh... Well... Ah! I'm gonna run into a helicopter. Imagine this with some hinge-connected cars following it as well. I'll admit, this is almost converting me. Oh yeah, you wouldn't be able to drive anywhere but the most perfectly smooth bits of desert with this thing. I'm surprised I haven't crashed it yet. Like, I'm going pretty quickly. I'm going 45 meters a second. This is, it's kind of amazing. Changing the steering down to just 5 degrees, I think, has helped a lot. Because I can't seem to quite roll it either. I'm trying to get it to roll. No, it's not going to do it. It is not going to roll. Oh, there's the tree. Perfect. Oh, and now I'm stuck inside. Okay, so the vote is basically what I'm going to call an even split, because it is 51% to 49%, which basically says to me, you guys are making me make the decision rather than make it obviously one way. I think regardless of which way I end up doing it, the benefit of what I just did is that now you know what's possible. I don't see any point in putting wheels on rotors, because wheels on rotors would just basically be giving us the extra subgrids without making them actually useful. Because wheels on subgrids don't last more than about a couple of meters. So I don't see much to be gained there from a gameplay perspective. I'm gonna go with the not on rotors bit for the locomotives, but for some of the rail cars I might put actual wheels on. We'll see, because I'm gonna have to replace all the wheels anyway to bring them to the version that looks better as a rail wheel. We'll see. At least changing them out isn't too time consuming. Because it just is it's 3x3 shorts just connected a block higher. Can you not change your vote once you've submitted? I thought you could change your vote once you submit it. If you can't, then yeah, I would restart the poll. I dare say a few people might change their votes now, having seen it. Oh, you can't. Okay. Alright, I'll end this poll and I'll start a new one. We'll see if it changes the results. If you don't like the answer the first time, short suspension block wheel. Start. Alright, if this gets as many votes as the other one, then I might use its results. No, don't tip over. I was wanting you to stay upright. We'll keep voting until we get the correct results, yes. Does feel a bit like that. When I like the connecting rod as a bit of extra detail. It is a bit sad to get rid of it. But there's a part of me that likes the idea of you guys being able to drive off with the vehicle. So we've almost gotten as many votes. And we're at 71% want the short suspension now. Okay, let me get a calculator. Oh, 36 votes. Only need 4 more votes. 4 more votes. 3 more votes. No, you cannot connect wheel subgrids up. Wheel subgrids have no attachment point, the proper wheels. I mean, these, if I put short suspensions on all of these, there will be drivable vehicles up on top of the bridges which you can drive off if you want to. Two more votes. 71 to 29. I was trying to do some quick maths to see whether 2 more votes would change it in any... would shift the thing very much. But I couldn't... doing maths is hard. Couldn't be bothered thinking about what I would actually have to calculate there. I was just like, no. Let's just keep wrecking this thing while I'm waiting. There we go, we're at 41! Okay, you guys want the wheel suspensions, I'll change it up. I will switch it over. Get parachute blocks. Yes. Can you make them? I can't remember whether I even blocked them from being built. I feel like I might have left them on something. parachute left on that? No. Parachute left on that? No. Okay, maybe I didn't. Let's grind some of this out. Bit more rust. Okay, what has this got on board before I let it get too much else? These batteries have got to go. Yeah, you know what? How many batteries does this have? It's got 2 hydrogen engines as well. Okay, those need to go if I'm going to leave that battery. I was going to leave this battery intact, but put this one with the intact battery on top of the bridge. Because I'm an inhuman monster. Where's the other bat? Oh, the other engine's there. You may have plenty of batteries, but do you have plenty of intact batteries? Alright, let's get rid of these, and then we'll put in the block to replace, and then I'll put in the suspensions. At that point, I have 1 locomotive, and the base blocks to put these things on, all done, which is actually not bad progress, I think. Oh, where did I line those up? 2 blocks from the end. Yes, having block damage off very much nullifies any claim of rotors are adequate wheels to me. There are a lot of things you can do in Space Engineers with damage off. Like bumper cars. There we go. So, if, for example, I wanted to put this on this section, what I probably need to do is first line it up to those blocks. And then I need to figure out a way to landing gear lock this down. The width is slightly off for the rails, but it's not too bad, I think. Using the wheel suspensions does slightly misalign it. I think it looks okay though. I can't do battery deletions here for the rail because it's a separate grid to this one, so it won't have behavior. What I've instead got to do is this. Oh wait, that's not going to work. That's the wrong position. I need that. Put it there, it might work, or if I try and get it to there. I could attach it to the rail grid. And I'm just testing this as one method to do that. The trouble is, attaching it, I may need to have extra clearances around the wheels, even with Consti's mod that means I don't need full clearances. But wheels still seem to need a decent amount of clearance around them. So I'm seeing what... So I think this is the way I'd have to do it. There we go, it's locked. If you turn voxel damage off, you cannot damage a grid with voxels. Was something I discovered when I was trying to do some tests for setting up a Scrapyard server, because I was like, oh yeah, we'll just turn voxel damage off. No, turning voxel damage off stops voxels from causing damage. So you can't even damage them with your grid. Can't even damage your grid with voxels. Slightly unexpected outcome, but yeah, that's how it is. So yeah, I'm not sure I could actually get these to be the same grid. I might try. See what happens with trying to get these to be part of the same grid, the rail and the train, but I don't think it's going to. And yeah, it does feel a little derailed. I'm kind of happy with that. I think this is a good starter template. Like, because how this should appear in world is like this. So you should come across something like that. Nope. So, Tommaso, the issue is that the large grid is the parent grid here. And it's kind of, I think it needs to be. So, there's no connection that can be established between the large grid and the small grid in any reasonable fashion. I could mount giant connectors and small connectors and try and do all that, but it's... Honestly, I think it's probably just easier just to use landing gear at that point. Because I can't delete anything on the small grid unless it's also connected via connector or hinge or rotor or something to the large grid. Maybe that's the lore of why the planet died. They built their rail gauges wrong. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Like, I think coming across that... Obviously, if it'll be completely on its own, so it'll look a little bit weird. That's not too bad. Especially if I do grab, say... Let's just grab one of the rail cars. Here's probably easier. One of these ones. Oh wait, no, there's the ones here quicker. Yeah, if I had something like that appearing next to it. Because I could make that landing gear locked as well. But I think that'd probably look weird. I think it'd probably be better if I push the locomotive forward and put at least one car on it. On a planet somewhere is a kid with a portal gun, and everything they shoot with ends up on this planet. Yeah. Cool. I feel pretty good about my progress today. These streams are actually really useful for me making much quicker progress than I would if I was just doing this on my own. I tend to get distracted. Go off and do other things. But yeah, I should be able to add the rail cars, convert them all over to the new design, add them all onto the different pieces of track, have a bunch of different pieces of track. So we'll have, in the end, what? 1, 2, 6, 10 different rail pieces. That's pretty good. I reckon 10 different rail pieces is a pretty decent effort. And I could probably make it up to 12 by just having some, or even more than that, by just having some empty rail pieces that don't have railroad cars on them. You don't always find stuff that actually has trains on it. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'll be back tomorrow morning over on Twitch with some more Underground Alone, and I have updated my Twitch drops mod for it. So no longer will we be getting the giant cargo crates, but also I'll have the possibility of getting better loot, but also some surprises, which you guys might discover next time. Tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, that's my plan for tomorrow morning's stream. And then hopefully, because it's been 2 weeks without one, we'll have a Sunday video, which will be a brand new survival tutorial series, which I'm planning to, once I get to a certain point in it, just continue on with it and play it as a vanilla survival series. Maybe gradually introducing new players to which mods and talking about the mods that I add and what they're going to change with the gameplay, and doing it that way so that it sort of continues on to something. With maybe like a simple end goal, like taking on one of the dangerous encounters from one of the MES mods or something like that. But yeah, having re-recorded that 5 times or so, I think I'm happy with what I've got now. It's like 42 minutes long, which is pretty long, but also that's the nature of Space Engineers. If I wanted to make a one-off tutorial that I taught everything that I know about Space Engineers, it would probably be about 8 hours long. But yeah, that is what's happening. So I'll see, hopefully, most of you tomorrow over on Twitch. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.